Hello everybody. Today we are discussing how we can reach 1800 on chess.com rapid. The series continues today after a long break. I had to look at so many games to be able to have firm conclusions about how 1800s differ compared to 1500s. And I will give you specific advice on what you should be doing to reach the level 1800, folks. Look at this. If you reach 1800 on chess.com rapid, you will be ending up in 95th percentile approximately, which means you'll be better than 95% of the people that are playing on the platform. That's quite an achievement, actually, folks. So today we will discuss how 1800 differs compared to 1500, as we discussed in the previous episode. If you haven't seen it yet, please go and check that episode right now, because that will connect nicely with today's episode. And I will also show you what kind of typical errors 1800s are making, so you should be working on those to reach the next level around 2000. The reason I created this series here, folks, is to first of all help you guys out there, also to help me personally as a chess coach, because if you understand which chess skills are emerging in what order, then we can give students much more specific advice and targeted training so we don't overwhelm them, right? Because we know what is reachable on the next level, what's proximate development for those levels, so we can give them much more directed training so they don't get overwhelmed by the complexity of the material. We know exactly what next level can achieve. Thus, we should be smart when we are giving material to our students. Okay, so it's evidence-based method. I've been looking at so many games to have these conclusions. If you disagree, please let me know. This is an open discussion. These are my observations and hypotheses as a strong player and as a chess coach, but you're welcome to challenge me so we can all learn and improve together. Okay, so these 4 questions are guiding us in this series, as you know, right? We keep the structure going, basically. I will answer those 4 questions today to help you reach the next level, okay? So the first question is, of course, what are the most common problems at lower levels, which means around 1500, right? We will revisit the previous episode's basic points, folks. And obviously, what skills does this level have, 1800s, as compared to 1500? That is not so visible, right? And also, what should be studied to reach this level, 1800? And what are the typical errors at 1800 as well? This way, I thought, was a smart way to structure this series. So you can also go back to this video and take lessons, revisit, look at those positions again, and challenge yourself whether my conclusions make sense. The first question is this, right? The most common issues at the lower level. They will revisit the basic lessons from the last episode. I will show you some positions today, but these are the 4 basic conclusions from the problems that 1500s were facing as far as I was looking at their games, right? Consistency was a big problem, folks. They were playing the most amazing games in their lives, and they make a crude blunder and they lose everything. So tactical consistency hasn't been matured yet. And as you know, right, chess is a very cruel game. A single mistake and everything is collapsing. So we'll see that 1800s are already getting better at this realm. And also materialism was a big problem for 1500s, right? This dimension of materialism, they were evaluating positions mostly based on the material aspect, but they were ignoring quality and time elements as well, right? Whenever there was a gain of material option, they were losing focus, they were grabbing the pawn blindly, and they were losing their advantages. 1800s are also getting slightly better in this realm. We'll talk about more about that later on, folks. What else? They were having problems identifying all the threats. Now we are talking about thought process and calculation issues, right? So whenever, for example, the opponent makes a move and generates multiple threats, and 1500s were not really seeing all the threats they were facing as well. And when it comes to positional chess, they were making a pawn move, and that was allowing the opponent to have a pawn break and awaken the enemy pieces. I will show you exactly what I mean. Let's look at this. 1500 consistency issues. 1500 person plays a beautiful game. Rook d1, activation. Bishop c4, activation. Bishop b3, beautiful. c5, he's seeing the threat. That's very nice. He's seeing the c4 threat. Thus, he takes on f6 and he creates this d5 outpost. Beautiful. Knight d5 takes, and 1500 correctly judges this position as better for white because white has better pieces, better bishop. Opposite color bishops favor the attacker. So white is a very, very good position as well in this position. This bishop is bad. This bishop is great. So you see, positional chess improves over 1200, but the consistency issue was a big problem. c4 cementing the bishop. Beautiful chess so far. Beautiful chess so far. And now we'll see what's coming next. Oh my god. Queen takes e5 was chosen in the actual game. After playing one of the most amazing positional chess, he goes and blunders the queen on a single move like that, right? So that's exactly what I meant by consistency problems. Their floor has not been so high yet. So as long as they make such crude blunders, it doesn't matter. They can make the best game in their life and they will still lose those games. We'll see that 1800s are improving when it comes to this part of chess. Their floor is much higher. Materialism was a big problem for 1500s, folks. Do you recall this position? It was white to play in this position, and the white king is still in the center. They should have castled long in this position ASAP and save their king. Instead, they see a free pawn grabbing option and they go grab that pawn at h6. And the question was, should black recapture that pawn or should black play rook e8 in this position? You tell me. You stop the video and you tell me, guys. Yes, rook e8 is a much stronger move because my rook is placed on the same file as your queen and king, and now things are going to be collapsing for white. But materialism was a big problem, and black 1500 in the actual game just took back the pawn, and white, instead of castling long, oh, he sees a free pawn, and that free pawn is acting like a magnetic pull, and he goes and grabs that pawn and forces black to make a great move, rook e8 in this position, right? And now, obviously, black is better after castle long. Here comes another position, folks. You can maybe stop the video and tell me, how should black continue in its position? That's a great calculation exercise for you, and you will generate more candidate moves for yourself on the second move, okay? The correct plan for black was knight g3 or knight takes t3. Both of them actually quite good. In the actual game, he goes knight g3, create this attack on the queen, and after queen moves, you tell me the next move for black. Do recall this position, folks. This is about generating several candidates and not falling for temptation in grabbing that material. Yes, the correct move is knight e2 check, and the king has no escape squares, and now the queen has to be lost, and black is completely winning. But in the actual game, the black player, after knight g3, queen g2, grab the material on h1. Oh my god, he's only focusing on that rook and he's not looking at the king. You see, one-dimensional calculation. Probably he's seen already from here, right? Oh, I will attack the queen and I will take the rook. And he's not showing any flexibility in their calculation, right? So that's why he was going wrong in this position. And this was a very pervasive pattern around 1500. Material is acting like a great pull, and people are having hard time in looking beyond the material aspect of chess. Finally, the problems for 1500s was that pawn play was improving compared to 1200s, right? They were not committing chess crimes in giving away big squares for free, but they were committing pawn moves like this, which was allowing an awakening pawn break. Can you tell me, folks, what's wrong with the move b3? b3 allows black to generate a beautiful move. You tell me. Yes, b4, and they're undermining that pawn. Thus, they are creating a strong square on d4 for their pieces. Going back, if white didn't play b3, this was not dangerous, right? I can make any move, and if you go b4, I don't need to react to your move because I keep a pawn on b2. Thus, I will support my pawn. Let's say after random moves, takes, right? My pawn stays here, and there is no way for black to gain access to that d4 outpost right now, right? But white only probably focuses on his own plan with bishop b2, but allows the move b4, and now the black pieces are becoming so much more happier. This was, you see, one level more advanced positional mistake compared to 1200s, because 1200s were just giving away weak squares directly, but this one is a more advanced version and yet quite instructive. And we will see today that 1800s are also getting better in this particular part of chess. They don't give away squares that easily to the opponent. Now, so far we've looked at the problems 1500s were facing. Now let's see what 1800 can do, folks. I've seen some very nice patterns today that I want to discuss with you. We'll see some beautiful chess that is played by the level 1800. In this position, it's black to play, folks. Please tell me a good looking plan, a positional plan in this position for black. First, think for yourself, then I will give you the first prompt. The prompt is this. How do you make this knight a better piece? It's as simple as that, because white just played b3 and that pawn is limiting and shutting down your knight on b6. Is there a way to change the picture? And you're a great player if you found the plan a5, a4, and black is awakening that knight on b6, right? This was available to an 1800. 1800s can see those positional plans easily in games, folks. That's a great improvement that is not so visible on lower levels. a4 is on the board, and now inevitably black will gain access to this c4 outpost. I created a course about this on Chessable, the art of awakening pieces. More on that later on, because I think that will be very relevant for people around 1500 to reach the level 1800. 1800s middle game plans also improve. Their opening understanding is much better compared to 1500s, and they connect their openings to their typical middle game plans, pawn structures, piece placements, and so on. I've seen some very, very good demonstration of good opening ideas here. For example, in this case, we are seeing how 1800 is playing with the black pieces. He's choosing this Queen's Gambit accepted setup, and he knows exactly which piece is going where in this position, right? So already here, you see, the bishop is on b7, c5 pawn break is correct, and black is playing beautiful chess. So far, it's a symmetrical pawn structure, but black has solved all their problems. They keep the tension on the board, no queen trade. Every single piece is going to their right spots. Queen e7 is beautiful, supporting the bishop, connecting the rooks. He wants to achieve this ideal setup in this structure, and queen c2 is a big mistake because the queen is inviting this move rook c8, right? So black immediately punishes that small inaccuracy queen c2, and already here white was so careless. After rook c1, I want you to right now stop the video and find that great tactical resource that was found by black in the actual game. How do you exploit the rook and the queen being on the same file right now? You're a great player, folks. If you found the move b4, and now after the knight moves, there will be some catastrophe on the c file. For example, knight a4, you tell me the next move. Of course, bishop takes e3, hitting the queen, discovered attack, and everything is collapsing. White is losing material in this case, and black won a very, very nice game from there, right? So going back to this initial position, right? What did we see? This was not visible at all to my project so far, right? Like this kind of nice demonstration of middle game ideas stemming from their openings, knowing which piece goes where, piece placement, right? Knight d7, queen e7, rook d8, rook c8. He knows exactly which piece belongs where. And this is already, you see, quite an advancement compared to what we've seen so far in this rating climb series. Another great thing 1800 can do, folks, is the attacking motifs have developed. They can engage in great attacking patterns in the middle game. For example, in this game, the white player is around 1800, and he will show us great way to attack the black king. White is the bishop pair, white is a beautiful central control, and he converts these advantages to a kingside attack in a very meaningful way, right? Lower rated players, they will just take that knight without thinking. Exchanges were blind. Already here, bishop h4 is a great move, keeping the tension, keeping the pin on the board. That's already quite an advancement, folks. f4, beautiful, cementing the knight and also getting this rook involved in the attack potentially, right? You see how white is playing. Every single move improves something in the position, connecting their rooks. He doesn't forget about the final pieces, right? Bishop e4, nice pattern. The bishop is now joining this diagonal, and white is forming a beautiful plan. Queen d3 is coming next. You see how white is demonstrating attacking motifs in the middle game? Bishop queen battery is formed. Look at this. This was not visible at all until we reached these levels, folks. It was difficult to observe such a clear demonstration of good attacking motifs. Look at how white is playing in this game. Beautiful g4 followed by f5, right? He's pushing the pawns. He doesn't shy away from pushing the pawns around the king, because who can attack this king on g1? It's the black king who is much less secure in this case. The black pieces are going backwards, folks. And comes the next move, f5. I mean, look at this. White is just demonstrating beautiful motifs, attacking motifs in this case. F takes e6, he's jumping directly on the attack on the knight on f5, on h7, and of course there is no way for black to hold the position anymore. And after knight f6, right, knight f7 is on the board. There was even d5, by the way, here. That was completely winning for white. Everything is protected. But the white player shows us, even here, right, great demonstration. Knight f7 hints at queen g6 infiltrations, and the game is completely over after this. Queen g6. I will show you how the game ended. Queen h6 check, followed by bishop g6. He wins the queen, and the game is completely over. Just going back to this position, folks, you see, this was not so visible at all. I mean, this is a really, really great advancement compared to lower rated players, 1500s. What we've seen so far is that 1800s opening play and middle game understanding is improved a lot, yeah? So this typical piece placement, typical attacking patterns are already quite established, and that's a great sign. Quite an important observations for 1800 guys is the defensive resourcefulness. Defensive resourcefulness improve a lot compared to 1500s. Well, 1500s are collapsing, 1800 is putting a stiff resistance. So I've seen one of the most exciting games at this level when I was looking at that. Yeah, because defensive resourcefulness was great, but also conversion skills was poor. And if you combine these two factors, you will see swings back and forth, right? Advantage slips all the time. They can't convert their advantages, and they're just complete turnarounds, basically. So I've witnessed some of the most amazing swindles when I was looking at this level, folks. Quite interesting. I will show you one example. Like in this case, the black player is an 1800 player, and he's already having a very bad position in the middle game. The king is stuck in the center. Objectively, black should lose this position, and in fact black is in a completely lost position. The king is in the center, he's down in exchange, rook c1s are coming. I mean, it's just a disaster, right? Disastrous position. Queen b3 is beautiful. White keeps the pieces on the board, white keeps the queens on the board because the opponent's king is not safe at all. And here you see rook c7 check. It's just completely resigns, basically. Yeah, rook d1, and the queen is lost. And here comes black's amazing defensive resistance. I will just show you the moves very quickly from this position. I want you to just observe what kind of defensive resourcefulness black is demonstrating in this game, and it just turns things around. White cannot win this game. King d6 defending the bishop. Just observe the stiff resistance that is offered by black in this game, right? We can discuss move by move, but I want you to just look at the overall picture, basically, right? He ends up in this position where he has a rook and bishop for the queen. Objectively, white should still win with best play, but already here, right, black is demonstrating great ideas. Bishop e4, knight h4, knight d6 hit the queen, and already, right, even after queen takes h6, white is just passed pawn on the h file. There is no easy way. Black is putting resistance, guys. This repeats itself at this level. That's why I'm showing you this example. It's very illustrative when it comes to what kind of things they can offer in terms of defensive resourcefulness, guys. Right, rook c8, now he just basically wants to stop the pawn on the h file, and now he claims his pawns are ready to roll on the queen side, right? It won't be easy at all. And white doesn't show a good technique as well. That's also something that maybe higher rate players are resolving. We will talk about that, right? Poor conversion is very visible for 1800. They keep getting great positions, but they cannot convert them that easily, as in this case, right? So it's already a completely equal position, by the way, guys. Black is forming a fortress. Everything is protected. Everything is protected. Black just waits. Black shows us a great defensive technique. Just waiting. White cannot improve their position. And in the end, they agreed on a draw very soon, folks, in this case, right? That's already a drawn endgame. 1800s tactical resourcefulness, also in defending, is great compared to 15 and 1600s, guys. That's a game. It was played between 1600 with white and 1800 with black. In this position, black, instead of trading the queens, plays the move rook e4. What a cunning move this is, right? That's what I mean by tactical vision and resourcefulness in chess. My question is this: can white grab the rook on e4, or that will be a blunder? Yes, that's a blunder, because if you take my rook, then comes this check, and I mate you on the next move, right? After rook e4, what should white play in this position? Because in the actual game, the white player took the queen on d6 and allowed, you tell me, rook e1 check, followed by mate on the next move. That's what I meant by the tactical awareness, tactical resourcefulness. They are able to find such devilish moves like rook e4 even in short of time, right? This is already a great achievement for 1800s. They are really, really great in swindling games like that, you know, going for turning drawn positions to victories basically. And of course, in this position, the white player should have spent more time and find the move queen b1, because that's the only way for white to stop rook e1 or queen d1 checks in the position. White is to be so careful in holding the balance in this position. So let's take a step back and see what we learned so far today. 1800s, they are showing these skills that is not so visible, that is not fully mature yet for 1500s, right? Tactical consistency, as we discussed, is much better than 1500s, right? They don't just blunder their queen after playing the most amazing game in their lives, right? This kind of crimes, this kind of blunders, for a single move blunders, are reduced. This is why maybe, right, their floor is much higher and their rating jumps compared to 1500s, right? Because it's a very cruel game. If you keep making crude blunders, even for a single move in your games, then your rating might not catch up with your true strength, right? What else? I will talk more about this. Needless h3 and h6 in the openings are reduced. This was a very pervasive pattern around 1600, guys. Around 1600 and 1700 chess.com, people just played needless h3, h6, a3, a6 in the opening. When they don't know what to do, they play with those pawns. I mean, that's a terrible idea usually, right? Unless you have a very concrete logic for such moves, they are usually waste of time. But as you reach 1800, this is also becoming reduced. Needless flank pawn moves in the opening are reduced because they're better understanding of the time dimension in chess. What else? Typical middle game plans executed, as we saw, right? Typical middle game plans are fully executed in the Queen's Gambit accepted version, for example, or the pawn storm, how to play the pawn storm positions and so on. And even defensive resourcefulness, that's a very, very big plus compared to 1500 folks. 1800s are showing great resiliency in defense. They are offering really stiff resistance, and they are making much more difficult for their opponents to convert their advantages. And since converting an advantage is one of the most difficult things in chess, especially for this level, we see the most exciting games that I've witnessed in this series so far. Swings back and forth, advantage slips all the time, and it's a very, very exciting thing to watch, of course, right? Good attacking patterns established, as we discussed, right? Knight e5, f4, f5, keeping the tension with bishop h4, going for an attack, motifs, pawn breaks. They're also getting much, much better compared to 1500 players. And deep understanding of weak squares and piece activity, as we discussed, the art of awakening pieces using pawns, right? Remember, undermining operation, a5, a4 to cement the c4 square for their knight. This was also very visible for 1800. That is not so visible for 1500 players. So what should be the goal? What should be the focus to reach the level 1800? If you're around 1500, maybe 1600 guys, I think these studies will help you improve and reach the next level. As we discussed, right, deeper middle game work is important. As we discussed today, 1800s are showing really good class in understanding which piece belongs where in their openings, right? Piece placement, pawn breaks, and so on. They are getting much better there in that realm. So it makes sense to also deepen your opening understanding, know the basic model games and which piece belong where overall, right? Your typical ideas in the opening and even tactical motifs that is connected to your openings should be studied more for this level, I would say. Yeah, the importance of openings are, of course, getting higher as you grow stronger as chess players. And then on this level, we see the importance of such study. Obviously, we also talk about time dimension in the opening, right? So needless a3, h3, h6, a6 are reduced at this level because people have better understanding of time dimension in chess. They don't only evaluate positions in terms of material aspect. And also we discussed, right? Materialism was a big problem for 1500s. This level is also getting better when it comes to playing anti-materialistically sometimes and go for piece activity and coordination. What else? Well, raising your floor exercises, reducing tactical blunders obviously are always relevant. Chess is fundamentally a tactical game, right? You can play the most amazing strategic game in your life and you lose everything with a single slip. So it's always good to work on your tactics, work on your those exercises that test you to avoid blunders, for example, right? Blunder check puzzles are great. You see the threats, your opponent makes a move, and you must always see all the threats that are present in the position, right? What will be their next move if you don't make a move right now? All these exercises will raise your chess floor and will increase your rating, right? Because you won't give away games needlessly. Finally, if you have to go to Chessable, please check out these two courses. That's best for your level, I would say, because the art of awakening pieces, as we saw today, and also the art of exchanging pieces are great to reach 1800. I think you're just about there, right? If you need this training, if you get this training done, you'll be able to play chess on this level that will put you in the 95th percentile of chess.com. It's very much reachable. Also, the art of burying pieces is great for on Chessable to play with your opponents, to limit and shut down the enemy pieces. Those courses will show you all the great things about chess. Now, let's finish with the typical issues around 1800. 1800s are also having some mistakes, and I'm going to show you today what type of mistakes you're making so you become aware of those, so you can target it if you want to reach the next level, folks. Okay, so I will talk about 4 broad categories here in typical mistakes I witnessed around 1800. The first one is about generally a poor feeling about the king's safety, both defensively and maybe sometimes in attacking context, and shying away from positional sacrifices to attack the enemy king. Okay, I will show you a very instructive position right now. It's white to play. How would you treat this position with white pieces, folks? White is down a pawn for the moment, and we are searching for a good plan for white. Take your time, please. You can stop the video here. You're a great player, folks, if you looked at the king on g8 and played the move f6, right? f6 is designed to create an attack against the enemy king and make the enemy king naked, right? You're destroying the pawn chain that is defending the black king. That's the goal, at least. After bishop f6, what should white do here, folks? Here, 1800 person went wrong with white pieces, and he shied away from a very promising and typical pattern, attacking pattern. You're a great player, folks, if you came up with the move rook takes f6. Positional and stock standard exchange sacrifice. You play this move without much calculation, because in this position the enemy king becomes weakened, and that's a long-term advantage for white, right? The psychological difficulty is that you're giving away material, and many people refuse to make such moves out of principle. But once you look at a position like this, right, the enemy king becomes so weakened on g8. You see the power of this exchange sacrifice. Now it becomes much easier to play this position with the white pieces. White will bring reinforcements with moves like this, and it's already getting dangerous to play this position with the black pieces. Black has to show great accuracy to defend this position, right? Maybe Stockfish will defend it, but we are not machines, right? So we're also counting on that. Practical advantages of making such moves. I witnessed many players having hard time in making moves like this. They sometimes even ask me on YouTube, how do we get better at sacrificing exchange purely for positional reasons? And one way is to look at master games, model games, where you see that master play such moves without much calculation out of principle. And also, right, by just allowing yourself to observe and analyze the situation like this and see the difficulties black is facing in a position like this. White could have played, for example, bishop h6, and already, you see, already here, big trouble is coming, waiting for the black king. Black has to find the only move f5, maybe to claim some edge. After queen f2, this is coming. They have to find the only move f4 to survive. And then after queen h4 comes this threat. They have to find the only move queen d6 to survive, right? You see, bishop g5 creates this threat, bishop f6 threat, and now they have to find the only move f6 to survive. Bishop c4 is coming, now they have to find the only move bishop d5 to survive, and now rook d1 is coming. I mean, you see it, right? You see the trouble black is facing. They have to play like an engine to defend a position like this. And even so, right, we will put so many question marks by playing moves like this, right? We will put pressure on the black king like that. And if they ever take our bishop, for example, then comes a beautiful moment. Bishop takes d5, the queen is pinned. After queen takes d5 comes this check, and first we win the queen. It looks like it's 2 rooks for the queen, guys, but in fact it's more than that. It's white to play. Can you please engage in short calculation and find the winning continuation for white in this position. You're a great player. If you found the sequence queen h6, king g8, what's the next move? Of course, queen e6 check. Loose pieces drop off in chess, and that's exactly how white would win this position. You see, black played like a machine. He played a single mistake, and white won the game. That's the strength of making such exchange sacrifices, right? The 1800 person played the next move, that is bishop h6. This is not a sacrifice, because if you take my bishop, I will take your bishop, you see? So he's shying away from this sacrifice. What is the problem? After bishop h6, we are not playing checkers, we are playing chess, right? So after bishop takes h6, I don't need to recapture your bishop and weaken my king. The best move for black is bishop e7, and now I attack your bishop, and if the bishop drops back, comes f5, and look at the black pawns, right? They start rolling forward, and the black king is still secure on the post g8. Black has an extra pawn, beautiful central control, and black is already having a big advantage. So 1800 person can find such moves like f6, but when it comes to the critical juncture, they are shying away from making positional sacks. Really, I have not seen many such positional sacrifices when I was looking at those games, right? I think that's quite a accurate hypothesis so far, that you need to get better at this, right? By dynamical moves like sacrifices. Even though you don't see everything by force, you still need to rely on your instincts and chess understanding to make such moves. As I said, you can play such moves without much calculation. You can see Garry Kasparov's games, for example, the Sicilian, right? Rook takes c3, exchange sacrifice, and so on. It's a very pervasive attacking pattern. Such exchange sacrifices to weaken the enemy king. Another instructive thing from this game, folks, is that 1800s are still lacking true understanding of the connection between center and flank. I will show you exactly what I mean here, folks. In this position, white goes f5, and they try to generate a flank attack on the king side. Black responds in the center with e5, and now we reach this position, right? That's a very instructive imbalanced position. White is clearly playing on the king side. They want to bring more pieces to the king side, while black has a central pawn majority. And you know, when they try to attack you on the flanks, you try to strike in the center generally, right? So in this game, black also doesn't show that true understanding of responding right in the center with d5. For example, here, after king h2, right? The best move for black would be just take on d3 first probably, and then going d5 in this position, because that's a central counter punch and you're punishing white's initiative on the king side, right? I made a video about this central counter punch. That's how you refute flank attacks in chess, right? You should generally respond right in the center of the board with moves like d5. Otherwise, it gets too late, basically. But both white and black is oblivious to this in this game, because what is the best move for white in this position? Imagine that d5 is coming. They will strike you in the center of the board. What is the best move for white? Please stop the video right now and find that great strategic move for white in this position, folks. Yes, you're a great player if you found the move c4. Prophylaxis against the move d5. c4 stabilizes the white center, and if the center is stabilized, then there's a green light to an attack on the flanks, right? White's argument is very simple. By pushing c4, I'm stopping all kind of central counterplay, and now my pieces will slowly fly to the king side, and I will punch you on the king side, and you cannot generate anything in the center of the board. That's a beautiful move, but this is not available for an 1800 person. They are not there yet, right? This understanding hasn't matured yet. That's why he makes a move like king h2 and allows a move like d5 in this position, which black missed, right? And then comes this moment, folks. Finally, black plays d5. That's a good move. And what we see is that we have a transformation of the position we've just seen before, right? Now comes the f6 moment, and we saw this position before. White should have taken on f6 with the rook and go for an attack on the king side. Common problems for 1800 when it comes to calculation is that they are missing the opponent's candidate moves, right? We humans are great at generating candidate moves for ourselves, but sometimes we miss that the opponent also has choices on the first move or maybe on the second move. I will show you two examples here, quite instructive calculation moments that 1800 went wrong. And I think that's a pervasive pattern around this level. It's not easy, obviously. And we'll see how 2000 may overcome these problems, okay? So in this particular position, guys, if you looked at this pawn on g3, this pawn on f2 is pinned. Black went ahead and played the move queen takes g3. That's a very, very good move. The queen cannot be captured. And after e5 comes my question, folks. Should black capture on e5 or should black play the move knight h5? Let's say you have two choices. I want you to stop the video right now and compare these two candidates for black. And obviously, while you will do that, you have to look at the opponent's resources, the opponent's candidate moves against your moves. Okay? Please stop the video here, folks. That's a deep calculation exercise. Folks, in the actual game, the black player took on e5 with the knight. He was only hoping and expecting the response queen takes e5, which black prepared this response bishop takes f2, and black will be having a better game. But what is he missing? After knight takes e5, he's missing the opponent's other candidate move. And what is that? Can you see it, folks? Yes, d4 is a cold shower because d4 not only hits the knight, but also blunts the bishop, thus also hits the queen on g3. Isn't it beautiful? So d4 actually creates a double attack. F takes g3 and d takes e5, and black cannot parry both threats. Black is losing material by force. After bishop takes d4, knight takes d4, black in fact resigned in the actual game because there's nothing he can do in this position. The knight is hanging, the queen is hanging, and they simply resigned in this position. It was a cold shower, right? So you see what's going wrong in the calculation process. Yes, he's looking at this tactical resource. He's seeing properly that if the queen takes on e5, then black is doing this. That's beautiful. What is he missing in his calculations? He's not giving the opponent several candidate moves on the second move, so to speak, right? Or let's say on the first move, because after e5, the opponent's d4 move is actually their first move in your calculations, right? So he's missing the opponent's candidates. He's only focusing on this capture, and he's omitting the fact that d4 is coming with tempo on the knight, right? So that's why chess is difficult. We should be like scientists. Just because we saw a good-looking move, we should not play it and be naive and expect only a single response. Let's see whether 2000s are overcoming this problem. Maybe that's a problem that is even pervasive for higher level players. That remains to be seen. But surely for 1800s, this was a very common theme that I noticed while I was looking at their games. Folks, let's finish this episode with a final summary of the typical errors on 1800s that we witnessed, right? Winning technique not fully matured. Obviously, that's why we see one of the most amazingly beautiful, exciting games, because while defensive resources are improving, winning technique is still poor, not perfect yet. So that's why I saw so many swings, back and forth, advantage slips all the time, right? Goes on to show how important it is to be able to convert winning positions in chess. And let's see whether 2000s are becoming better in this particular area of chess, okay? Also, they are missing particularly, right, as we saw last time, opponent's candidate moves in calculation. This was a pervasive pattern that I've witnessed. Their three-ply calculation is getting better. Their tactical awareness is getting better, right, compared to 1500s. But particularities in calculation, such as missing candidates for the opponent, is still an issue. Also, very interesting, right? Positional sacrifices, they are shying away from making those. Exchange sacrifices to make the enemy king naked and so on. Those patterns has not been automatized yet. They are still showing sins of materialism, which was pervasive for the 1500 ELO, right? 1800s have a better understanding of time and quality dimension of chess, but they are still showing materialistic tendencies when it comes to shying away from long-term positional sacrifices, either pawn sacrifices, positional pawn sacrifices, or exchange sacks, as we saw in the last episode, right, in the last position. Also, finally, their feeling for the king's safety hasn't matured yet. They are underestimating long-term attacks. They are allowing some pawn transformations that make their enemy king more exposed in the long run, right? Also, when it comes to, right, allowing such exchange sacks, for example, for the opponent that make their king naked. In the final episode of this series, folks, I will talk about how we can reach the level 2000, keeping the structure the same. The idea is to give you much more targeted training and show you your potential issues that you can be much more aware and get targeted training to reach the next level so you don't get overwhelmed, right? That's one of the fundamental goals of this series. So you know what the next level achieves, what is developed for the next level, for the very next level, so you can also not overwhelm your training basically by looking at something that is too difficult for your level, right? But you know what's reachable, and you actually mostly target that lowest hanging fruit, the reachable fruit, with some support and prompt from me and with some good books and courses on Chessable. As I mentioned, to reach the next level of 1800, you need more strategic understanding and training, more middle game work, right? So art of exchanging pieces and the art of awakening pieces will give you that, exactly that. There are also, of course, so many different courses and books we can later discuss, but that's personally will be my own recommendations for you. I expect your feedback. Please give me a like and subscribe if you like this video. That's very important, folks, for me to be able to continue this series. I'm here to help you improve your game, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.